And we didn't do a lot here on the Letterman thing, which I think was a wise decision. This is an unpleasant story. There are two kinds of people in the world, Bernie. Those who revel in the suffering of other people, those who enjoy that, and those who really say, even though it's a sordid situation, we don't like to see people hurt. All right? Now, the criminal, the guy, the extortion guy, that's a different story. He tried to commit a crime. Whatever happens to this guy Haldeman happens to him. You got no sympathy from us. So Fox News wisely said, you know, we'll report the story, but we're not going to revel in the story, as some of the others did. So give me a rundown of what the media coverage that you saw about Letterman was.
Well, first, let me preface it by saying, as you know, Bill, I worked at CBS News for 28 years, so I think I understand how people in the so-called mainstream media think about these things. The Letterman coverage, and by the way, along those lines, there's a very simple rule of thumb. Very simple. If they like you, they'll go easy on you, and if they don't like you, they won't. The Letterman coverage was basically, just generally speaking, it was fair and factual. But look at it this way, because that doesn't tell you about their biases. Look at it this way. Let's say it wasn't David Letterman who was involved in a sex scandal. Let's say it was Rush Limbaugh. You think they'd cover it the same way? They'd give that story more ink than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I mean, they would turn the extortionist into a national hero. So they treat it one way when they like you, but they treat it another way when they don't like you. And I think that's an important point. They always make the point, and I know these people, Bill. Again, I worked with them for 3 decades. They always make the point that all they want is a good story. That's true as far as it goes, but they always salivate more when it's a conservative they're going after than when it's one of their own.
Okay. The tabloid newspapers have heavy coverage. The New York Times did a little bit on it, but didn't revel in it. I think that if David Letterman had been a conservative, I think you're right, that it would have been a lot more into the hypocrisy.
Exactly.
Exactly. This is a difficult question because conservative Americans basically see the world as good and evil, right and wrong. They have what they call values. This is the right way to live, that's wrong. Nobody can ever live up to it. We're all sinners. Nobody could ever live up to it. The liberal world is much more accepting. So Letterman falls under that liberal banner.
Absolutely. And that's a very good point. You see, if it's a Republican politician who did the same thing, they get him on the hypocrisy charge. But if you're in the entertainment community and you state no particular values, you don't get accused of hypocrisy. So the media can brush it off or minimize it because you're not a Republican who says, I have family values, and then he's running around with his secretary. So that's, the left has an advantage in that. Well,
they have a big advantage. But here there was also the fact that Dave Letterman makes a living skewering people who get in trouble.
That's hypocrisy, isn't it?
I don't know. He's a comedian. He's a comedian. They write jokes for. Again, look, you're a comedian. They write jokes for you. You tell the jokes. Are you going to be a perfect person? No, you can't be. Nobody can.
If you go after politicians like Elliot Spitzer on sex charges, and there are others I can't think of right now, and then you're involved in the same thing.
But it wasn't the same thing. Spitzer was a prostitution beef.